Governor for the great state of Arkansas and former Republican presidential candidate himself. Great to have you. First of all, I want to get to Mike Huckabee now, former Republican governor for the great state of Arkansas and former Republican presidential candidate himself. Great to have you. First of all, the rollout yesterday. I want to get your thoughts on it.
Kamala confused.
Well, I think it was somewhat of a surprise to some people, not to me. Kamala Harris has been the border czar. She doesn't want to admit it, but she's been the border czar, and she's been against walls. She's finally found walls that she likes. So this is as close as she's going to get to protecting the border. Tim walls, not real walls, Tim walls. The surprise is that this is a pick that is being heralded by the people that she shouldn't really be that excited about. People like AOC, Bernie Sanders, they love the pick. That's a real problem for her. So I think it's going to be a challenge to see how do you win voters in the middle and right of center. You don't with this ticket.
And you're going to need to do that in places like Pennsylvania. And when you look at the map, it's going to be difficult for her. And Donald Trump will need to win Pennsylvania too, but she has to win it.
Well, she does, and I think that part of the problem is politics is like putting out a plate lunch, Harris, and one of the things you do, you look at meat, the vegetables, and the dessert. You pick the issues that are most important to the voters. If this were a plate, I'd say that the most important issues are things like the energy, whether they can afford gasoline, the cost of groceries, taxes. Are they going to be higher? Take away the money that I've earned and give it to somebody that didn't work, that got up at the crack of noon today? And immigration. Are you going to stop the flow? Then you've got the vegetable portion of the plate. Those are the issues that they're in trouble on. And that'd be like the radical abortion position that Tim Walz has taken, abortion up to the moment of birth, far beyond the mainstream. The transgender issues, putting tampons in all the boys' bathrooms, taking parental rights away and saying that if you do not support your child, and I'm talking about a child, not an 18-year-old, but a 13-year-old, going into a transgender surgery, then the government can take your children from you. That's a radical position and one a lot of Americans would find disgusting. Then you've got the dessert. That's going to be the things like the personal issues, the DUIs, the National Guard issues. That's the plate. And you try to keep it in proportion because you want to make sure that the issues that the voters care most about are the issues that you put out there. And that's the message that I would put for the Republicans. Put your plate together, but give the attention to the meat, a little bit to the vegetables. Don't spend all your time on the dessert.
Wow, that is really interesting. And I wrote down every word that I could of what you said, because what you've done is lay out a blueprint, and you've got the experience to know what it takes as a presidential candidate to be focused, and as a governor. So you understand all aspects of this. All right, let's move. Moments ago, J.D. Vance laid out the two tickets, very different views for America. Watch this.
So to the American people who have a chance to choose a better path in November, I'd ask you to choose the candidate who will stop that fentanyl from coming into our communities, who will stop our parents from losing their lives to this terrible fentanyl overdose and stop the children from dying as well. I'd ask you to vote for a candidate who wants to support our police officers, not make their lives harder. I'd ask you to support a candidate who wants to make it easier to deport illegal aliens and not harder. I'd ask you to support the candidate who has shown that he can deliver security in our streets. We just have to give him the opportunity to govern, and that's President Donald J. Trump. The contrast could not be more clear.
He seemed to hit it all. I mean, he hit the meat, the vegetables, and the dessert, as you put it.
I think he did. One of the things that's going to be a problem for Tim Walz is that the picture of Tim Walz standing in front of Minneapolis when it was burning in the summer of 2020, the so-called Summer of Love, if I were the Republicans, I would have a big event and I would stage the Bluegrass Musician of the Year award to Tim Walz, saying that he is the best fiddle player America has because he fiddled while Minneapolis burned. And just remind people that he took the wrong side of crime when it came down to his own state and his own cities. And as a result of that, there were a lot of small businesses that were forever altered, put out of business because he basically stood up at the rioters and against his own police people. That's a serious position to have taken, and people ought to remind him of it.
Yeah, and talk about changing economies. I mean, we still in this country, most of the jobs are generated by small businesses. So when you punch and destroy and let them be destroyed with your policies and decision making, you're putting a whole lot of folk out of work, which is why the numbers look the way they do in the jobs reports, and not just the most recent, but why they can seem a little inflated, Governor. Because people are getting gig jobs. It doesn't drill down to what it takes to equal what they used to have. They're gig jobs. A lot of them are working 2 and 3 jobs.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Americans, they know this because they're experiencing it. And the fact is, small business makes up over 70% of the jobs. Quite frankly, the globalists and the corporatists, they're going to be fine. It doesn't matter if Harris gets elected. They'll find a way to make money. They've got buildings filled with lawyers and accountants that get them through whatever tax impositions that are going to be placed upon them. That's not true for small business operators. Exactly. It's not true for the mom and pop stores. They need a Donald Trump presidency for deregulation, cutting taxes, giving them some breathing room so that it's not just that they can survive, they can hire people and they can put things on their shelves that are less expensive if the energy prices are lower. That's where the election has to go.
That's exactly right. I mean, if you can't pay them, then you can't hire them and everybody suffers. Governor, it's always great to see you. Thank you.